Hello and welcome and back to my Dinar Daily YouTube channel. The content above represents a textbook example of the kind of speculative, emotionally charged commentary that has circulated within the Iraqi dinar investment community for well over a decade. While it presents itself as informed financial guidance, a careful and honest examination of the claims, the patterns, and the history behind this type of content reveals a deeply troubling picture, one that has cost countless ordinary people significant amounts of money, time, and emotional energy. Understanding why this narrative is problematic is not just an academic exercise. It is a matter of genuine financial protection for anyone who has been drawn into the orbit of so-called dinar gurus. Let us begin with the most fundamental issue, the Iraqi dinar revaluation, or RV as it is known in these circles, has been imminent for more than 15 years. The same basic script: Iraq is almost ready, the budget is about to pass, the exchange rate is about to change, something big is happening this weekend, has been repeated thousands of times across hundreds of YouTube channels, websites, and social media platforms. Dates come and go. Weekends pass without event. March becomes April, April becomes June, and the goalposts shift seamlessly without any acknowledgement of the failed predictions that came before. The video transcript above follows this exact pattern with near mathematical precision, suggesting that something significant might happen by March 7th, then immediately hedging with "let's see what happens." This is not analysis. This is the language of perpetual deferral dressed up as insider knowledge. The references to geopolitical events, Iran's military situation, Trump's statements, the coordination framework's decisions regarding Maliki are presented as though they are pieces of a puzzle that, once assembled, will trigger the long-awaited currency revaluation. But this kind of reasoning cherry-picks current events and retrofits them into a predetermined narrative. Political developments in the Middle East are genuinely complex and consequential, but the suggestion that they are directly linked to a specific imminent Iraqi dinar exchange rate change is not supported by any credible economic analysis. Currency reevaluations of the magnitude being suggested, where the Iraqi dinar would supposedly increase in value by hundreds or even thousands of %, do not work this way in the real world. They are not secret events waiting to be unlocked by the right political conditions. They require years of sustained macroeconomic reform, international monetary coordination, and institutional credibility that simply cannot be reduced to whether or not a cabinet is formed this month or next. The presenter's confidence about Iran is particularly worth scrutinizing. The claim that the conflict will not last long and that we're ahead of schedule implies access to information that no private citizen, and certainly no YouTube commentator, actually possesses. When someone tells you they know how quickly a geopolitical conflict will resolve and that this knowledge should inform your financial decisions, the appropriate response is deep skepticism. Military and diplomatic outcomes in the Middle East have humbled far more sophisticated analysts than those running dinar investment channels. Presenting certainty where none exists is a rhetorical technique designed to build trust and authority, not to inform. The mention of big investors not jumping ship is another classic element of this genre of content. It implies that sophisticated, well-resourced investors are quietly positioned in the Iraqi dinar, validating the thesis that ordinary retail holders should stay the course. But there is no verifiable evidence that major institutional investors hold Iraqi dinars as a speculative currency play in the way retail dinar holders do. Iraq does attract foreign direct investment in sectors like oil, infrastructure, and telecommunications, but that is fundamentally different from currency speculation. Conflating the two is misleading and serves primarily to reassure a nervous audience rather than provide genuine financial clarity. The framing of the CBI, or Central Bank of Iraq, as being ready to move but waiting for permission from the United States is another recurring theme in dinar commentary that deserves scrutiny. The Iraqi Central Bank does coordinate with international partners, including the United States, on monetary policy matters. But the idea that a formal green light from Washington is The sole remaining obstacle to a massive currency revaluation is a dramatic oversimplification. The Iraqi economy faces structural challenges including oil price dependency, corruption, underdeveloped non-oil sectors, and ongoing political instability that are not resolved by a simple permission from an external power. The notion that the revaluation is essentially done and merely awaiting a bureaucratic signature understates the enormous complexity of what is being proposed. Perhaps the most psychologically telling moment in the transcript is the line directed at listeners who express doubt. For those of you that call me and say, "Oh, but we got to sit here and wait till the war is over." You can't hear, or you only want to hear what you want to hear. This is a form of audience management that inverts the burden of skepticism. When a financial commentator mocks or dismisses the concerns of cautious listeners while simultaneously promising that events are ahead of schedule, that is a significant red flag. Healthy financial commentary welcomes scrutiny. It acknowledges uncertainty. It does not shame people for exercising caution with their own money. It is also worth examining the emotional architecture of this type of content more broadly. The dinar community has sustained itself for so many years in part because of the social bonds it creates. People who have held dinars for a decade or more are not just holding a currency, they are holding on to a hope, a community, and in many cases a significant portion of their savings or retirement funds. Acknowledging that the thesis may be fundamentally flawed is psychologically painful, not just financially inconvenient. Content creators in this space, whether deliberately or not, exploit this dynamic by consistently framing patience as wisdom and doubt as weakness. The result is an audience that becomes progressively less capable of critically evaluating the information they are receiving. The regulatory and legal landscape around Iraqi dinar promotion is also worth noting. Multiple financial regulatory bodies, including the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, have issued explicit warnings about Iraqi dinar investment schemes. The FBI has investigated and prosecuted individuals involved in dinar fraud. This does not mean that every person who creates dinar content is acting illegally, but it does mean that the category of activity carries documented risks of fraud and misrepresentation that consumers should take seriously. None of this is to say that Iraq's economy is without legitimate interest or that its currency situation is irrelevant to global finance. Iraq does have significant oil reserves and genuine long-term economic potential. The country's monetary authorities do engage in exchange rate management, and the official rate has been adjusted modestly in recent years. But modest, technically managed adjustments bear absolutely no resemblance to the thousands of % revaluation that has been promised to dinar holders. The gap between what is realistically possible and what is being sold to this audience is vast, and that gap has remained unbridged for more than 15 years of predictions. The most responsible thing anyone can do when encountering content like this is to apply the same standard of evidence they would apply to any other financial decision. Ask who benefits from your continued belief. Ask how many previous predictions have been accurate. Ask whether the people making these claims are registered financial advisors and whether their advice comes with any accountability. The answers to those questions, applied honestly, tell a story very different from the one being told on Dinar Daily.